Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our service, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices or place them in silent mode. Thank you.
Adonai Adam Vatidleichu Ben Enosh Vachashveichu Adam le'aver dama Yamav kitzel ver Baboker yatzitz v'chalav la'erev the molev Tashe Enosh Adakavatomer Shuvu v'nei Adam. Who among us here has not passed through our own trials and bereavements? Some of us bear fresh wounds in our own hearts and therefore feel more keenly the kinship of sorrow with those who love Anne and will always love Anne, Grandma, Annie, Mom, Auntie Anne. Some of us bear fresh wounds in our own hearts and therefore feel more keenly the kinship of sorrow with those who love Anne the most. Others of us whose mourning is a little more remote still recall when a silent hug or a kiss or a word brought comfort to our sorrowing hearts. All things pass, all that lives must die, all that we prize is but lent to us. We are travelers on the same road that leads to the same end. So we gather today to remember with all our hearts, souls, and minds Anne. We gather with many mixed emotions, certainly with the knowledge of knowing that she is no longer with us in this world, but certainly with the knowledge that in all God's speed, she is on her way to her eternal resting place to be with those who have gone before her in a reunification of love, and also with the knowledge that in Judaism someone never really dies. Their successes and achievements, their loves, their family, they live on what we call the Dor Vador from generation to generation, and that is proven with the custom and the tradition of naming boys and girls who have just been born after those that we love so much in our hearts. So I can certainly foresee in your homes in years to come, maybe sooner than we think. No? No, okay. In your homes, there will be many little Anns running around. And those little Anns will be taught by you who they are named after and why they were named after Anne. And they will grow up with the knowledge of knowing that they are named after someone that we all gather today with goodness and righteousness on our minds. And the highest compliment that you could ever call a Jewish woman, that would be an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. So as King David wrote over 3,000 years ago that God will walk us through the valley of the shadow of death, King David never wrote in Psalm 23 that God would leave us in that valley. So one day, when you wake up, what will be left in your hearts are simply the happy and joy-filled memories of Anne, Auntie Anne, Grandma, Annie, Mom. Those joy-filled and happy memories, those will be the ones that will last and will always, always remain in your heart. So if you know the traditional words of the 23rd Psalm, we say them out loud together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord. We begin words of love with Kim.
Okay, I'm only kidding. Oh, okay. First, I want to say thank you all for coming today. We've all been just blown away by all the support and messages that we've received over the last few days and, frankly, the last few years. As you know, Mom's last few years were difficult, but I want to focus on the good times and speak a little about who she was to us. I've been thinking about what I was going to say for a while. Obviously, we knew this day was coming. And I keep coming back to thinking about my mom's life in two parts. The first part of her life with my dad, Jerry, and our family, and the second with Joe, who is now part of our family for over 20 years. Let me start with the first part. Mom grew up on a dairy farm in Medway, Massachusetts. She was a cheerleader. She eventually made her way to the big bad city of Boston. It was just unbelievable that she went to Boston, all the way from Medway, where she met my dad. And after several moves, they settled in Cherry Hill. So Mom taught kindergarten in Lawnside at a Head Start program. She shaped a church basement into a full-fledged school and made such a big impact in that community. She then ended up teaching for many years in Magnolia, and I see all the Magnolia faces over there. She made amazing friends, colleagues, and absolutely loved teaching. She had some partners in crime for many, many years over there, so it's nice to see everybody. But Mom was one of those teachers that she just really cared about the kids. She spent so many hours prepping and just being there for her students. Joe and her actually attended a graduation party for one of her students many years later. They would still email Mom, call her, and she showed up to celebrate them. That's just who she was. It was such an important part of her DNA that even when she was in the throes of dementia, she would talk about her students and just going to school that day. It just was so much a part of her being a teacher. She was also Teacher of the Year for New Jersey in 1996, so I just wanted to put that out there. Very proud. My mom and dad had a great life in Cherry Hill. Mom was part of the National Council of Jewish Women, helped chair the annual art show. She was very into art. She loved it. It was held in the old JCC on Route 70 many, many, many years ago. They were one of the first families to join McCore and made wonderful friends in Woodcrest and at the Willowdale Swim Club. When I think about my family, Mom always put us first. We had dinner together every night. It was just a priority for her, and I can honestly say that whether it was grilled cheese or her baked chicken, there was dinner every night, and we sat together at the table, and I just look back at that as such a wonderful part of growing up. Okay, all right, sorry. She loved my dad and was very supportive of his career. He traveled for work overseas a few times a year and would go away for 3 to 4 weeks at a time, several times a year. It was just normal for Amy and I, but thinking back as an adult, I can imagine how difficult that was, working full-time and running a family and keeping everything on track. She would spend hours laughing and talking on the phone with her bestie, Aunt Gail. Some of you might remember Gail. They would just laugh and laugh. She would walk with the phone back and forth, went with the cord, back and forth, cracking up. They were just, it was ridiculous, but there was so much laughter. And looking back at that, she really showed me what having friendships like that should look like. And especially for the last few years, I just really appreciate all the support that I've gotten from all my friends that are more like family to me, so thank you. My mom was our biggest cheerleader. You will not find a more supportive mom out there. She was excited about every accomplishment, big and small. She loved being a grandmother and volunteered to pick up her grandchildren from daycare so Steve and I could work. After a full day of teaching, at school, she would make the rounds and pick up all the boys with snacks, always. They were always ready with snacks. I always appreciated at the time, but again, looking back, obviously that was not easy, and to her, it was like her thrill and her honor to be able to do it. My dad passed away when Mom was only 53. This was not part of Mom's plan, but she moved forward. She spent lots of time at the shore and loved when the family was together. Nothing made her happier than when all 5 grandkids were together. This brings me to part 2. Mom met Joe, and you could just tell how happy she was. They were lucky to find each other and spent 22 years making memories. They had time in Margate, Avalon, Maine, and Florida. All those things filled her calendar, and it made me think, I just want to share this. When I say calendar, I mean a full wall calendar. Like, even after people had phones, it wasn't a little date book. She carried around a full-size calendar and would bring it into my house to make sure she had dates on everything correct. So, like, we're talking a full-size calendar. That never changed. They eventually moved to Legacy Oaks and found a new life together there. Mom thoroughly enjoyed planning all the events, going to New York City to see shows on the bus, all the Legacy Oaks parties, and spending time at the pool. They made great friends there, and she really loved being part of that community. And just to see so many people here, we really appreciate that, and I know Joe does as well. Mom and Joe were hosts for many family Hanukkah parties, and Joe seamlessly joined our family for many celebrations and just regular family everyday dinners. They supported each other's celebrations and made a beautiful life together. The last few years were tough, but as a testament to the kind of person she was, she made showing up for her very easy. It's not the way I would have planned her life to go, but if there is a silver lining, it allowed me to slow down with her and spend so much time just being together, and I'm really grateful for that. I will miss her every day, and I know I will continue to cherish all the time we had together. She was just sweet. She always had a smile, and she loved her family deeply. Thank you for coming today and supporting all of us. It really does mean everything. Thanks.
If you had the honor and the privilege of knowing Anne, she went by many names of love to you according to your relationship, a family name, a nickname, a silly name. When we say the words, we will remember. Please say the name out loud that she was known to you and will always be known to you when you have the blessing of thinking about her. Say that name out loud. In the rising of the sun and at its going down, we will remember. When the winter turns into the rebirth of spring, we will remember. When the spring turns into the warmth of summer, we will remember. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember. When we have joys, we yearn to share, we will remember. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us, as we will always remember. We call up with love, Amy.
Hi, everyone. Oh, boy. It gets written at you, doesn't it? Okay, there we go. Growing up, we ate dinner late. Dad's Greyhound from New York pulled in at 6:25, and dinner was ready at 7:15. Dinner wasn't formal or precious. It just was. Mom's signature weeknight dishes were always served with bottomless helpings of both ketchup and Diet Coke. Their consistent presence at the table practically deputized them as members of our family. We laughed, bickered, and more than occasionally, to Mom's disgust, burped our way through those weeknight meals. As a fourth grade teacher, Mom's workday officially ended at 3:37, which likely explains why we were scheduled at oddly specific times. It wasn't uncommon to be told we had to walk out the door by 8:06, meet at the pickup spot at 6:42, or expect her to arrive no later than 12:38. Mom loved teaching and worked hard to develop her craft. If we were to ask one of her fourth graders to describe her, I'd imagine they'd say something like, her nails were always perfectly painted. Her handwriting was beautiful. She taught with her whole body. She taught loud, and she could get very excited. Mrs. Miller always had a plan. I'm sure we've all been on the receiving end of that. She and Mrs. Butler across the hall were best friends. They were the writers, directors, stage managers, and costume designers of the Magnolia Elementary School's famous fourth grade play, Coming to America. Where's Catherine? Where'd she go? She's here. Oh, hi, there you are. It was never the same 2 years in a row, and no matter what anyone else might have thought, they ran that school. You always knew when Mrs. Miller was coming down the hallway. If she wasn't chatting, her bangle bracelets were. And when she arrived, there were scarves, pins, and earrings to complete whatever ensemble she was wearing. Her notes were always signed with a hand-drawn smiley face. Mom loved teaching. But even more than that, she loved summers off. On the last day of school, she'd call me giddy every year and declare, should have been a teacher. Every September, like clockwork, I'd call her back and announce, the days of summer have ended. It was a long-running bit and always gave us a really good laugh.
Even after moving away, after more than 50 years ago, Mom's Boston accent never faded. People were always asking her where she was from. She loved telling them about her Massachusetts dairy farm roots. While it's unclear how much actual farm work she did, the family legend is that she spent hours in the barn reading to the cows. That small town spirit never left her. In the 70s, when we moved to Cherry Hill, it still actually felt rural. It was dark at night. There were long country roads. Our house, just a couple miles from here, overlooked a working farm with cows, chickens, and guinea hens that squawked their way through our yard every morning and afternoon. I like to think that for all the ways Cherry Hill felt new, those little pieces of her hometown brought her comfort and joy. Pretty much anything went at our family dinners, but there were a few unspoken rules. Mom had rules. Placemats, always. A ringing phone need not get answered. Never, ever scrape plates. Ever. For holidays, the table must be festive, and there was nothing wrong with setting it several days in advance. Each meal was plated for every guest, whether there were 6 of us or 26. Each plate arrived set just so, and the food, there was always plenty of it, and it tasted as good as she made it look. Now, in this moment, as I try to measure the space her absence leaves, I hold tight to the thousands of small ways she filled our lives. The laughter, the dinners, the handwritten notes, the smiley faces, the scarves and bangles, the summer phone calls. Because growing up, we ate dinner late, and that meant we ate together.
An Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. A good woman who can find her. She is worth far more than rubies. She brings good and not harm all the days of her life. She girds herself with strength, and her trades are profitable. Wise counsel is always on her tongue, and her home never suffers for warmth. She stretches her hand to the poor and reaches her arms to the needy. All her friends praise her, and her family blesses her. She is known at the gates as she sits with the elders. Dignity and honor are her garb. She smiles at the future. Joe.
I first want to thank all of you for coming today to honor Anne. My Anne, I want to tell you a little bit about my Anne. I hope I can get through this. We first met in a little restaurant in Somers Point, New Jersey. She was a curly-haired blonde that captivated me during dinner, and afterwards, I surprised her by asking to drive her home. To my surprise, she accepted, and we drove to her apartment in Margate. Unbeknownst to me, her daughter Amy and her husband were there that night. Anyway, that was the beginning of a 22-year love affair. Anne was born in Massachusetts and had a charming and distinctive New England accent, which I had to get used to. And being raised on a farm, she had a fear of water, but we'll get to that story a little later. Anne was a teacher at the Margate Public School for 19 years, teaching students in kindergarten, first, fourth, and sixth grades. She made good friends there, and two of them, Paula and Catherine, are here tonight, or this afternoon, I guess. She also wrote, produced, and directed the school musical Coming to America. That wasn't enough, and also championed the rights of her fellow teachers. And loved and looked and took pride in her family, particularly her brother Norman and his family, and her two daughters, Kim and Amy, and their 5 grandchildren. She also extended that love to my family, and we became one family together. Anne loved the beach and spent summers in Margate and Avalon, along with a trip to Maine in August. The winters were too cold for her, and so we'd escaped to Naples, Florida, every year for some 15 years, where she found a 3-foot-deep lazy river pool. Well, she was not afraid of that because she knew it never got any deeper than 3 feet. So she would take pride in walking the river 2 times, 3 times. She tired me out, but she loved it. And she also loved to cook and was very particular about her matzo ball soup. Those blessed matzo balls had better float to the top, or she would not be happy. She was the one that made the decision as to which house we should buy in Legacy Oaks. When she entered the house, she walked to the rear, looked out the rear window at the trees, the pond, the ducks swimming in the pond. She turned to me and said, "This is the one we should buy. Make the offer." We bought it and have spent 17 wonderful years living in it. Over the years, she made many friends, and I know she will be missed. I will miss her most of all. Thank you.
And to the family, you have already started certainly to fill out all these forms that simply must be done on behalf of Mom for many, many reasons, and you will continue to fill out all these forms. And on each one will be the date of Anne's birth. Most of the forms will have a little dash next, and then the date of her passing. Certainly it's extremely important to remember her birthday for each year to celebrate her heavenly birthday. And in Judaism, it is of the utmost importance to remember the date of her passing, to light the yahrzeit, the remembrance candle. But even more important than those 2 bookend dates is that little dash in between. For that little dash is symbolic of a life so well lived, with so much love given, and certainly as we hear and see today, and will continue to hear and see for many, many years to come, so much love given. So when you continue to fill out all these forms that you simply just have to do, look at the 2 bookend dates, but more importantly, much more importantly, is that little dash in between. For that little dash is a symbol of love. We call up with love Matthew.
Not really sure how to follow all of that, but I'm going to do my best. So, we are all here to honor the incredible life and legacy that my grandmother left not only on us, but on the world as a whole. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Matthew, and I am Anne's oldest grandchild, which is a title that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and I always will. I want to take some time to reflect back on some of the fondest memories I have of my time with her and how these memories have shaped me to be the person I am that is standing before you today. As a kid, I remember sitting in the back of Grandma's black Mercedes with Justin and Dylan on our way back from school. Rest assured, she always had snacks at the ready, but deep down we always hoped for cookies or fruit snacks. Those were the real winners. We would all take roll, just like we were sitting in her classroom, and then we'd be on our way. That car always seemed to have what I think was a new car smell, but that may have just been Dylan, Justin, and I. I remember looking at the telephone buttons on the car's dashboard and debating whether or not they actually worked or if they were just for show. We would all take turns sharing the funky crafts and the weird things we did that day, and we all would race to tell Grandma first. I remember getting to Grandma's house, and without fail, we would be offered applesauce. If we were lucky, it'd be the cinnamon apple kind. That's the best kind. It's still a flavor that sticks with me to this very day. After devouring the applesauce, it was a race between Justin and I to the family room, where we watched train videos and Barnum and Bailey Circus on VHS over and over and over and over again. I remember playing down in the basement with all of the cousins every time we would all get together. We would make pretend that we knew how to play pool, even though we really had no clue. And even though we may have been a touch too old, we would still pretend to run the fake supermarket that lived down there for way too long. I will always hold these memories near and dear to my heart, and as I reflect, it was the simple times like this that just surrounded us with warmth and family, and that's what resonates with me the most. More recently, I remember going with Justin to pick up Grandma from her day program, and even if she wasn't able to fully verbalize it at the time, seeing the way that she lit up as we walked into that room is a memory that I will personally cherish forever. I can still hear her saying, "Oh my God," over and over again, and her smile went from ear to ear as she went up to just about everyone in that room, gushing over how happy she was to see us there. Through the years, Grandma showed how her never-ending kindness shined through, from rave reviews from her students all those years ago to hosting all of us down the shore every summer. Even today, Mom, Amy, and Joe are still getting messages from people that knew her from her teaching days, raving about how wonderful she is and how much she'll be missed. Her relationship from the stories from her students is something that originally inspired me to pursue teaching in the first place. It really has carried through generations and will always carry on through our family. I'm grateful every day that I got to grow up with Grandma as a part of my life, and I will miss her every single day. And while we all miss her deeply, I find comfort in knowing that she is now at peace, and I know that she is watching over all of us with the same love and care she always has. Thank you.
For those who would like to give in the name of Anne from your hearts, you may choose to give to the Tender Adult Day Center at thetender.org. Shiva services are tonight at Steve and Kim's home, beginning at 6, and Shiva services will be at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow night, on Friday night, all are cordially also invited to Joe's home, Joe and Ann's home, from 6 to 9 o'clock. If you are able to, we rise for the prayer of our departed, the El Malay Rachamim. Emre Rachamim Shochein Bamrumim Hametzerei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina Im Kedoshim Eterim Gezara Rakia Mazirim et Nishmat Chana Chaya Bat Moshe Shelecha Leolama Barachamim Yasirechu B'Seitzer Kinafav Leolamim Vitzira HaChaim et Nishmata Adonai Nachalata V'tanuach B'shalom Al Mishkava V'numor Amen. And once again, in the space provided, please say the name that Anne will forever be known to you as, in love, compassion, and God. Eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to who has entered eternity, O God of mercy. Let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bonds of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us all say, you may be seated.